Wait, is there a piano cover? Whoa, rage bait? What's rage bait? It's not rage bait. It's the truth. The truth is not rage bait, bro. I can defend all this shit. Yo, I found proof for atheism. You kicked my dog. Why you kicking my dog? Oh, you atheist? Oh, okay. Say no more. So you're here for the music. It's the moon theme from DuckTales. Oh, you like that one, Alan? Well, I'm keep asking, like, what's your evidence you're an atheist, right? And they don't have any evidence, so I'm like, well, if I saw you kick a puppy, I'm gonna believe you're an atheist. That's what I was thinking. Doesn't that make sense?
There's a bit of DuckTales.
DuckTales. Hell yeah, DuckTales. So we're reading The Ethics of Freedom. Culture shapes everything we do. Our culture is like a lens through which we experience the world. It provides us with our way of life, how we behave, what we value, what we believe is right or wrong, how we think, right? Culture gives us the tools we use to understand and process information, like our language and shared ideas. Culture shapes how we feel. Even our emotions, like how we express love or grief, are shaped by cultural norms. So we don't experience the world directly. We don't see reality as it is. Instead, we interpret it through the filters our culture gives us. For example, our language shapes how we think and communicate. Without it, we'd struggle to organize or share our thoughts. The symbols, stereotypes, and images we inherit from our culture influence how we understand events and people. So limited freedom. Because our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors are shaped by our culture, our freedom is limited. We can only act and think within the boundaries our culture allows. For instance, you might think you're freely choosing how to react to something, but your culture has already taught you what reactions are appropriate. What proves Christianity? The transcendental argument for God would be an objective proof that Christianity is true. This is stupid. Yeah, Christianity is objectively proven by the transcendental argument for God, which is an objective philosophical proof. How is atheism baseless? If anything, it makes more sense than brainwashed religions. Well, there's no so I'm a person who believes that we should have evidence for the things we think are true. And there's no evidence for atheism. So all the any times when atheists try to debate me, they get blown the fuck out because they have nothing. Atheism is untenable, it's vacuous, it's hollow, it's all like surface level cliches and platitudes that get instantly destroyed upon a conceptual analysis. So, because atheism has no evidence and the evidence supports theism, then the rational person is going to be a theist. Atheism is kind of like a flat Earth belief or something like that. Okay, attempts to break free. So we're limited by our culture. Our culture sets up the boundaries, boxes us in. Atheism isn't a belief for religion. It doesn't matter how you want to define atheism, currents. Atheism is absolutely a trash position that has no evidence to support the position under any definition, and it's garbage. No one should be an atheist. It's just like no one should be a flat earther. So, attempts to break free. Some people might try to break free from these cultural influences, like by changing how language works, creating new words, or breaking grammar rules, rejecting traditional ways of thinking. But these efforts can come at a cost. They might make it harder to communicate with others, which creates a new kind of limitation. So, in an attempt to like break free from your culture and think differently, you put yourself in a position where no one can understand you. Actually, this explains my life. Wow, it all makes sense now. Nobody understands me. Because I spent my whole life like thinking about how I've been indoctrinated and shaped by my culture. And I'm like, I don't want to be just this product of culture. I want to be who God made me to be, right? And so I try to think different, like Apple products, but it creates a limitation where people can't understand me. That totally happened. Atheism has research that stacks up to about 4 feet tall. Says the guy worshiping lazily adopted delusions of an unobservable God, the hypocrisy. Well, God is obvious. God's invisible qualities are plain and unambiguously clear to everyone. So you can't rationally deny God. Science says everything has a creator. Nothing is born out of chaos. Science. I don't know if science says that. Atheism doesn't need evidence. It's the lack of evidence for religion. Okay, well, Phantom Lord, you're just conceding. Like, if you don't have evidence for your position, I don't care how you define your position. It's going to be emotional and irrational because I think we should have evidence for our beliefs. And so, if you're admitting right there that there's no evidence for atheism, then you're just admitting that it's a weird, goofy belief that there's no evidence. There's no reason to think atheism is true, right? So you shouldn't think it's true. You should believe things with evidence, like Christianity. How is Christianity objectively proven? With a transcendental argument for God. The transcendental argument for God is an argument about like systems. So in our system, God creates knowledge, and then humans derive knowledge from God. And if you deny that, then you have a system where humans create knowledge. And the problem is, if humans create knowledge, then all knowledge is ultimately relative. And if knowledge is relative, then you're reduced to global skepticism, which means you can't know anything. I can't take an atheist seriously. Agnostics, on the other hand, are generally much more authentic. Actually, that's no, and you can't be an agnostic because God is obvious. You can't be neutral on the obvious. It's like you couldn't be neutral about the elephant in the room. Prove God exists? Certainly. So, if facts exist, then God exists, the Christian God. Facts exist, therefore the Christian God exists. Because facts require identity over time, facts require uniformity of nature. And only God's revelation can account for and explain, justify identity over time and uniformity of nature, which are necessary for facts. So the denial of God, to deny the Christian God would be to deny facts, since there's the necessary relationship. And due to the impossibility of denying facts, due to the absurdity of atheism, Christianity is true. Science calls Higgs boson as the God particle. Yeah, but science can't even make any metaphysical claims. Science can only tell us about how we perceive the world in like a phenomenalistic sense. Science can't tell us what the world is apart from like perceptions and phenomena. Yes, every fact, every piece of evidence would be an evidence or fact for the Christian God, since all facts and evidence reference the Christian God to be facts and evidence. It wouldn't be facts and evidence without the ultimate context of the Christian God. It's a transcendental argument. Transcendental arguments, I'm arguing God as a first principle, and transcendental arguments are what we use to prove a first principle. No, tag is an objective proof. That's incorrect. You can look up transcendental arguments in the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. They're valid arguments. So, and since it's a valid, sound argument, then tag does indeed objectively prove Christianity is uniquely consistent with observable data. No other worldview is consistent with observable data at all. Mr. Miyagi, I have the power of karate. Watch me crane kick atheists. So we can't escape our culture. Even though culture feels like something external, it's so deeply ingrained that it becomes part of who we are, our nature. In other words, the things we think of as natural or instinctive, like emotions or memory, are often shaped by the society we grow up in. So, in short, right, our culture shapes our thoughts, feelings, and actions so deeply that we often mistake them for personal or natural choices. While it's possible to challenge these influences, we can never fully escape them because they're the foundation of how we understand the world. Well, we can fully escape them with the revelation of God. Right? So since we can't since our culture influences how we think and our thinking influences how we interpret the world, we can never escape this bias. So, what we need is to listen to an authority outside of humanity, God and His revelation. God and His revelation provide a foundation for which we can make sense of our experience, of the fact that we have knowledge and that we can do science. Without this revelation, reality falls apart because God is like so foundational to everything. Okay, so in addition to culture, we need only mention here the other determinations which are best known, which are the most profound, and which are also the most external. Thus, we have determination by motivation. The reference here is to motives which, quite apart from our pretentious claims to act as free and independent persons, really control our conduct, decisions, and choices. Analysis of motivations increasingly shows that our voluntary acts on which we base our freedom are performed for reasons which are indeed within us, which have their roots in our innermost being, but which are completely outside our control. Our conscious motives are just a lying screen for acts which are dictated by impulses over which we have no mastery, but which we are either unable or unwilling to recognize. To put in a paradoxical form, the very thing here which seems to be most free is in fact the most determined. This is why the atheists say that they believe in determinism, because this is what science keeps indicating. I have a meme for that one. I am bleeding viewers, yes, that's true. That's alright, I mean, what are you gonna do? The things I say are not popular, but they're true. Unfortunately, the truth is not popular. People would rather hear lies. They want to hear someone go, the Bible condones slavery, and God's a mean big jerk, and look at this contradiction. Did Jesus die at 10 a.m. or did Jesus die at 11 a.m.? It can't be both! They love that content. But I don't know. I don't like that content, so the dumb content can be popular, and then I will just be unknown for the rest of my life. That's fine with me. So motivation shapes our actions. We like to believe we make choices freely and independently. It certainly appears that way, right? However, motivations, deep reasons behind what we do, are often in control. These motivations come from within us but are not under our conscious control. There's hidden forces at work, right? What we think motivates us, like wanting to help someone or choosing a certain career, is often just a cover story. The real reasons might be things like unrecognized desires, subconscious fears, or deep seated habits or instincts. For example, you might think you choose to work hard for personal growth, but deep down, it might be a fear of failure or a need for approval driving you. So we don't control these motivations. These impulses feel like they come from inside us, but we don't decide to have them. They just exist and push us to act in a certain way. This means even the things that feel most free about us, our decisions and actions, are shaped by forces we can't fully see or manage. So this is a paradox, right? Is that the parts of us that seem most independent, our choices, are actually the most determined by hidden factors. So while we feel free, our freedom might just be an illusion created by deeper, uncontrollable forces. In short, we might believe we're in charge of our lives, but much of what we do is shaped by hidden motivations which we don't fully understand or control. This challenges the idea that we're completely free to act how we choose. We get the Kierkegaard quote. I love the Kierkegaard quote. Where's the Kierkegaard quote? Pass it. Oh. What the frick? I can't find the Kierkegaard quote now. I like quotes. Big quote guy. Weird, I can't see it. What the heck? Did I delete it? I just had it yesterday. What? Weird. That's weird. I guess it's like deleted. Huh? How did that happen? Okay, whatever. Deconstructing atheists. All right. So I might also refer to determination by membership in a group. This is a different problem from that of our culture. Our conduct here is the result of the totality of individual interactions within the group and of the pressure which the group exerts on us. Techniques of group dynamics enable us increasingly to grasp the way in which conduct is fashioned in the group. Here again, then, we are not as free and independent as we imagine. We find in the group the satisfaction of strongly felt needs, the need for security or control. For the satisfaction of these needs, we are prepared to adopt the behavior which permits us to live in the group. Finally, we should not forget the works which show how man is conditioned by his urban environment, by the development of organizational techniques, by the application of individual or mass psychological techniques, by the growth of the apparatus of state, by the expansion of global and unitary ideologies. In actual society, man is at the mercy of a multiplicity of forces which act upon him. No doubt to the raising of his standard of living, but also to the augmenting of the growing complexity of determinations. These determinations are different in kind from those which may be seen in the earlier relation with nature. They are technical, planned, and calculated, except that their effects cannot be foreseen. This seems to suggest that man can know and master them. Experience shows, however, that man cannot do this, and that while actual technical determinations can be exercised by men on other men, they can be mastered only at the level of the operation and not at that of the determinative factor itself. I think he's saying like the determinative factor is like too complex for humans to grasp, and we can only like have a primitive attempt at control or something, controlling others with technique. I don't know. Let's see what ChatGPT says. Explains how modern life shapes and controls people in ways that they may not fully understand and control. Okay, yeah, I think I kind of got it then. Modern society influences. So today's world has many forces that affect how we think and act, like the way cities are designed, rules and systems and organization, techniques used to influence people like advertising or propaganda, government power, and control. Big ideas are ideologies that dominate society, like evolution or something. These forces are planned and complex. Unlike older forms of control like struggling against nature, farming, or hunting, these modern forces are man-made. They are carefully planned and calculated. For example, advertising might be designed to make you buy things or think a certain way. While these systems can improve our lives, like rising our standard of living, they also make life more complicated and harder to understand. We can operate these systems but not fully control them. People can use the systems like technology or government, but they don't fully control how these systems affect society. For example, we might use social media, a tool we control, but its larger impact on how we think or behave is unpredictable and often beyond our control. True. That's deep, actually. It's like a parts composition fallacy. Like, just because we can like control the part doesn't mean we can control the whole. The illusion of mastery. It might seem like we can master these forces because we create them. However, experience shows that while we can handle specific tasks like using a computer or driving a car, we can't fully control the bigger effects of these systems on our lives and society. In short, modern life surrounds us with complex systems and forces that we use but don't truly control. They shape how we live in ways that are often unpredictable or beyond our full understanding. To sum up, we find three aspects of conditioning. The alienation brought to light by Karl Marx, which is still true. 2, the determinations by culture, which the social sciences have discovered. And 3, the resultant growth of artificial techniques of determination, like propaganda and advertising, I think. In these conditions, it is absolutely impossible to say that man is free. So because we're alienated, determined by culture, and indoctrinated by propaganda, it's impossible to say man is free. Interesting. Thanks for the likes. We thus come up against a remarkable fact. At the very time when the concrete discovery of man's lack of freedom is being effected with the greatest rigor and precision, philosophies of freedom are obviously flourishing. Throughout the centuries, the freedom of the will has been debated metaphysically. No solution has ever been found for the problem. From about 1850, however, scientific knowledge of man and society has enabled us to conclude with some degree of certainty that man is not free at all. This has not taken place at the metaphysical level. In the older debates, already some champions of the bondage of the will, I do not refer to Luther, insisted on the material determination of man in relation to bodily needs. Since this could not be denied, a strict differentiation was made between body and soul. There is a scope for a far deeper examination than is possible here of the role of the dichotomy of body and soul in the whole conflict between the bondage of man and the freedom of man. The body is patently enslaved, but in compensation, the soul is free. Now, what modern psychological analysis makes clear is that with a profundity we cannot yet assess or limit, the soul is also in bondage. Determinism applies to man with respect to all things that we can lay hold of by our instruments of measurement and analysis. One may go even further and state categorically, for it is more than an affirmation, that man is not so enamored of freedom as some have supposed. Freedom is not an inherent personal need. The needs of security, conformity, adaptation, happiness, economy of effort, and so forth are far more constant and profound. Man is completely prepared to sacrifice his freedom in order to satisfy these needs. That sucks. I love freedom. That's why I'm a Christian. Prove souls? What? Why do you think tag is a sound argument? Because the premises are true? Isn't that obvious? That's what it means to be a sound argument, is the premises are true. Do you not notice me and Darth? The endless amounts of explanations we give to show how it's true. Are you guys not paying attention? He probably left already. I didn't answer his question fast enough. Tag is literally begging the question. It's literally not begging the question. The circularity that is in tag is within the worldview. So it's called worldview circularity. It's not yet, Alan. There's different types of circularity. There's question begging circularity, which is bad, and then there's worldview circularity, epistemic circularity, and transcendental circularity. So do you even know which ones are valid and which ones aren't? Like, you don't even know. I didn't say circularity. I said question begging is circular reasoning. That's what question begging is. Question begging is circular reasoning. Oh my god. It's so low tier, man, these people. No, it's not. It's not question begging. It's worldview circularity. You don't know what you're talking about. Yes, begging the question is bad, but worldview circularity is not bad. Because the ultimate authority in the system of truth is going to be self-authenticating, self-attesting, because it's ultimate. If it's not self-authenticating, it's not ultimate. Then there's another ultimate. It's not, the conclusion is not in the premise. The premise one is just showing there's an entailment, a necessary relationship between knowledge and God's existence. That's not begging the question. Okay, well then every argument is begging the question. It's so stupid. God's everywhere. God is omnipresent, or it's also known as God is immanent in the world. That's why he's universal. He's a concrete universal. The only concrete universal. Exactly. God's everywhere? You mean nowhere? Yeah, I mean the opposite of what I'm saying. Yeah, I'm being sarcastic. What the fuck? Yeah, God's ironically everywhere, guys. Isn't that ironic? People believe in God. If you were a true atheist, you would kick a puppy. Because you guys don't kick puppies, you're actually Christians. Do you guys know that? If people do not kick puppies, so they're not actually atheists. See what I'm saying? They're lying about being atheists. If they really don't believe in God, why don't they go kick a puppy? Prove it. Because I don't just believe what people say. Welcome, Auda.
What's up, Precept? What's the background about?
Well, I keep asking for atheists to prove that they're atheists, and they never like give me evidence. So I was thinking, like, if you kick a puppy, then I would be convinced you're an atheist, because only like an atheist would kick a puppy.
Really?
So I was
So,
trying to, trying to help atheists have
are you
evidence.
saying that Christians are morally perfect?
No, I'm just saying, uh, uh, like a Christian's not gonna kick a puppy, because that's like a hateful thing to
You
do.
don't think so?
No,
So that's what I'm trying to say. Are you saying that Christians are morally perfect?
no, I'm just saying they don't kick puppies.
Why? Okay. And do you think all atheists kick puppies?
No, but I think if you, I don't think people are atheists, because like if you were an atheist, you'd be kicking a puppy. But because you don't kick puppies, you're not really an atheist.
And so that's you're not being serious with that, right?
Well, I'm dead serious.
Um, so why would atheists and kicking puppies be? Are you saying that atheists are depraved?
Well, if atheism was true, it wouldn't really matter if you kicked a puppy, right? There'd be no,
Uh,
wouldn't be bad.
it- so you're saying morality wouldn't exist for an atheist?
You gave me a hat and mustache, Autumn. What the heck? I should have been on cam for that.
So,
What's that?
so are you saying for atheists morality doesn't mean anything?
Nothing means anything. There's nothing matters. You're all just gonna you're on a path to like being unalived, right?
Yeah, but okay, so like a car, you can have it for 10 or 15 years, right? But then it goes to the junkyard, so to speak, right? Does it
Uh-huh.
mean that in those 10 or 15 years that car didn't have a purpose? The same thing with people, right? Just because we don't live forever and we have a finite time, it doesn't mean that in the time that we have it didn't have a
Well,
purpose.
but everything you build will be destroyed and will be lost forever.
Right. So wouldn't that make it so important that if you only have that small window period to
Ultimately,
actually be able
nothing.
to,
Yeah, but
yeah, no,
ultimately
ultimately,
nothing.
but in the time that you have, I mean,
Well, I
it's
mean, that's a
it,
fact.
that
You,
must
you
be
want?
everything.
I mean, yeah. I mean, you can believe a fantasy, I guess, but like, if you're gonna be a realist, like, ultimately nothing matters. So you might as well kick a puppy.
Wait. So
It's like,
does it? I mean, so even for the atheists, it matters that they get water and food.
what do you mean? It doesn't. No, it doesn't. Like you,
Yeah. Otherwise, they're
there's
going
no
to be.
reason to continue like get, trying to survive. Like you might as well just
There,
die.
there is because
You can't
this is
accomplish
the
it.
only chance that we experience life. If that was the case, right? So I mean, a lot of people would like to experience life. So
Yeah, but that's
if
just a
they do,
preference.
that's what a preference.
Yeah,
Um, okay, but yeah, so that will give you a purpose.
but it's not real.
It is real.
No, it's just you guys are just living a fantasy and like thinking there's a purpose.
No, because is reality a fantasy?
For an atheist, yeah,
How is that the case? So if
because there is
so,
no
real.
reality. It's just whatever you think is true.
Wait. So if there was no God and there was no afterlife, then that would mean the things that are occurring aren't really happening.
Yeah, everything's a fantasy. Without God, everything's a fantasy. You're like a character in Harry Potter.
Um, so when a earthquake happens, then this is just what a fantasy.
Yeah,
Because tied to real events, you have pain and you have things that ground you in reality. So I mean,
there is no reality. It's just you have a phenomena, not a reality.
so it wouldn't be the reality if somebody had cancer.
You only experience the phenomena someone has cancer. You would not know anything about the reality of cancer.
Well, you would be living the reality of having
The
cancer. Right?
phenomena. The phenomena is not the same as reality. Well, yeah.
So why do you think that God grounds everything?
Why do I think God grounds everything? Because he revealed himself as the ground being.
Because he revealed himself? You mean because in the Bible it claims that somebody said that Jesus was God?
Yeah.
Yeah, so but he didn't reveal himself to you.
Jesus said he was God. And
Yeah,
so,
but he didn't tell you that directly.
okay. So Jesus is the
So he
ground
didn't reveal that to anybody currently today.
being. Well, he's God's obvious, like his invisible qualities are obvious to everyone. So
They're not though.
they are.
Okay, what invisible qualities is it obvious?
Like the fundamental parameters of reality, like cause and effect, or logic, or
Yeah,
math.
those things. So let's go to the logic because I was just talking to someone on my live about logic. So let's just use one thing about logic, right? Like the law of identity. A rock cannot be a rock and not a rock at the same time, right? So that doesn't prove God. That proves that way of the way that we observe the universe, that this is to be the case. But it's not because anything to do with God. It's just the reality that you can't be something and not something at the same time. It's a contradiction. It breaks the law of identity as well.
Okay, but yeah, but God would limit the properties of the rock so it doesn't change into a basketball.
Yeah, but there's no proof of that. That's the reason.
Yeah, but if you deny that God does that, then what would limit the properties of the rock?
Uh, the natural elements of the universe.
Okay, so what you're doing now is you're absolutizing a statement of abstraction. So abstractions can't cause things.
I'm
So,
sorry, abstraction can't what?
um, like an idea can't turn a light switch on or start a car.
Yeah, I never said it could. What I'm trying to say is the
That is
same
what
way.
that is actually what you just said.
Yeah, but you're pretty much saying like on the moon when there's uh, low gravity and then you float, that God's the reason why that happens. But really, it's just the way of
God dictates the state
the
of
universe.
God
So why in the
determines
Bible doesn't it talk about planets and space
God.
and all that stuff?
Why does I don't know why it would need to. So God determines what's possible and impossible. And I'm asking you what determines.
Yeah, but the reason why is because God claims to be the creator of all things, and in the Bible, like Genesis and stuff like that, He wants to tell you about the unique makings of the world. But there's nothing further than the people in that time what they knew. So like, it's not really impressive.
Okay, but you when you speak, you talk about what's possible and impossible, and then if there's nothing that you can identify and defend that would dictate what's possible and impossible, when you talk about possibilities, you're just like making stuff up. You have no idea what you're talking about.
Possibilities, like what possibilities?
Like anything, like to speak of anything, what would make it possible or impossible? Like, why doesn't the rock change into it's like impossible for the rock to just magically turn into a basketball, right? That's not possible.
Yeah, because that's
Yeah, so what dictates
nature.
that possibility?
No, so that's just the nature of the world that we live in.
But,
I mean, it's
but
that.
that's like saying the my idea started my car.
No, that's like saying we observed.
Well, I think the problem is you just like kind of a slow process of
So no,
information.
yeah. So all you're saying is everything we observe is grounded by God, but really everything we
Dude,
observe.
you just told me and your ideas can start your car in the morning.
I did not.
Okay. Well, you're too dumb to know what you're saying. So I'm just going to kick you because you're too dumb.
Cool. Cool. Have a good one.
All right. Read a book. I didn't say that. He absolutely did. I asked him what causes the rock to stay as a rock and not transform into a basketball. And he goes, this abstract thing. Basically, he said, well, like, concepts. Concepts cause, like, ideas cause the rock to just stay a rock. My idea, I'm gonna go start, I'm gonna turn the lights on with my ideas. I'm gonna go lift weights with my ideas. I mean, like, this is the type of shit atheists say. Like, why are you saying dumb shit like that? And it's like, I'm like, dude, you just said something crazy. And he goes, no, I didn't. He has no idea how stupid what he's saying is. He's like totally lost. Ugh, just make things up in the conversation. Pathetic. It's like embarrassing, dude. I said the nature of reality. The nature of reality is that you're appealing to it. What is that? You're appealing to an abstraction, dude. We need reality is a metaphysical claim. I'm asking you what grounds metaphysics. You need more than a metaphysical claim to ground metaphysics. You're appealing to natural laws. That's an abstraction. That's what you were appealing to, dude. You were saying ideas cause things in the world. That's nuts. What you were saying was freaking nuts. And I confronted you about it, and you don't even know what you're saying. And what you're saying is so insane. And you have no idea. You're just saying things. Well, it sounds good in my mind, so I'll just say it. You don't know what you're talking about. Because if you did, you wouldn't say something so stupid. I'm literally helping you by kicking you because you're just going to embarrass yourself. Ugh. Just goofy. And then we can never go anywhere in the convo because you're so like dumb and unwilling to learn. And you think you're right and you don't even know what you're talking about. Like, why do you think you're correct when you're fucking don't even know what you're talking about? This is what I don't understand. Like, I can tell you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, and yet you're sitting there telling me you're correct when you clearly don't know what the fuck at all you're talking about. Why do you think you're correct? You're obviously just making things up and you don't know what you're saying. Why do you think you're correct? So ridiculous. Huh? I'm not angry. It's just like, so these people are just like insane. It's like he's telling me this just like absolute garbage nonsense, and I confront him and he acts like he's not doing that. He's clearly just a rotten liar. Like it's just he's just a rotten person. Like I don't do you guys know I don't do this shit. I don't just like fucking lie to people. So when you it's like I don't get why you think it's okay to come up here and fucking lie to me. That's not cool. So weird. I can't just lie? But every time I see my friends debate, all they do is lie. I thought debating was just another way to say lying to each other. No, he's bullshitting me. He's being an asshole. Fuck him. The word freedom is very evocative. Imagine being a fucking atheist, dude, and going, ideas can cause things. An idea can cause my car to turn on. And I'm only saying this because I'm trying to defend atheism. Like, why is atheism so important to you that you'll say just any nonsense to defend it? Like you're like a Shroud of Turin person. I'm upset because my beliefs are being challenged. Yeah, mentally challenged. The word freedom is very evocative. The only thing that's being challenged, the only thing you're challenging is my patience with stupidity. That's all you're challenging. Freedom is a good subject in propaganda, in which individual freedom and national independence are often confused. The remarkable thing is that man cannot tolerate direct oppression or subjection to a superior. He cannot tolerate material constraint, which reduces him to the brutish level, confinement in prison or being chained. He has a biological need for autonomy of movement. This is the instinct of freedom which Pavlov found to be a kind of reflex. As concerns revolt against the domination of a superior, however, this is less a matter of liberty than a will for power or self-affirmation of the instinct of superiority. To be governed arbitrarily, to be ordered about, is intolerable, not because I am a free man, but because I myself want to do the ordering, which is why what normally happens is in politics, I think that's supposed to say, is that a more dictatorial government than ever is set up by the movement which has staged a revolution in the name of freedom. Hence, when we speak of man's impulses towards liberty, we are not an inferior level, but we are not at an inferior level, but we are confronted by a wholly different phenomenon. And when it is a matter of exercising individual personal freedom, it may be noted that in practice, man gives priority to many other needs and longings, and that he fears freedom more than he desires it. That's true. So what is he talking about here about how like we don't like to be ordered around because we desire to order people around? When it's a matter of exercising individual personal freedom, that in practice man gives priority to many other needs and longings, and that he fears freedom more than he desires it. Like, is he saying that we're enslaved by like, our sin or something? I'm gonna run this through the chat GPT. I think I understand this one, but might as well. What's up, Army Father? I think I defeated all the atheists. Not really. No one wants to debate me anymore. I made a new meme last night. I was thinking, since they don't have like evidence to prove that they're atheist, if they like kick a puppy, then that would prove they're atheist, right? So like only an atheist would kick a puppy. God can't do a single thing. What? He's God. Doesn't that make sense? Like I go, why are you an atheist? And they never have like a reason, right? So it's like, okay, prove you're an atheist by kicking a dog. Then I will believe. Then you will convince me that you are atheist. I'm not here to spread the gospel, dude. Septics for skeptics. I don't think there's much left of Western civilization. I don't even really want to salvage it. It was kind of a disaster. I don't really agree with this meme, but it's kind of funny. As it's got Santa Claus. It's Christmas time. God can't spread it, dude. I'm not here to spread the gospel. What the hell are you talking about the gospel for? You already know the gospel. Gospel has been spread. Gods don't real. How about that one? Oh man, atheism cracks me up. I made this meme too. Einstein abused his first cousin wife. True. True. Everyone thinks Einstein's so smart. Well, why did he marry his first cousin? I ain't no Einstein, but I know you ain't supposed to marry your first cousin. I ain't even know Einstein. What's wrong with these scientists? He's overrated. Yeah, for real. Okay, freedom feels important, but it's complex. The word freedom is powerful and often used in speeches, advertisements, and propaganda. It mixes ideas like personal freedom, doing what you want, and national independence, a country being free from control by others. Why people resist direct control. So humans hate being directly controlled, like being locked up or physically restrained. This is partly biological, or instinctive. We instinctively want to move and act freely. People also resist being bossed around because they don't want to feel inferior. But this isn't always about true freedom. It's often about wanting power or control for themselves. The irony of revolutions, right? When people overthrow a government in the name of freedom, they often end up creating a new government that is just as controlling, or even more so. This shows that the desire for freedom can sometimes mask a deeper desire for power. Fear of true freedom. When it comes to personal freedom, making your own choices and being responsible for your life, many people are hesitant. People often prioritize other needs like safety, comfort, or belonging over freedom. In fact, freedom can be scary because it comes with uncertainty and responsibility, right? People don't like uncertain things, and people definitely don't like responsibility. They always like to shift responsibility to others. So, unless of course it's like um, they're taking credit for something that people think is good. People value the idea of freedom, but in practice, it's more complicated. They resist control because they want autonomy of power. But true freedom, where they make their own choices, can be intimidating. In all spheres, then, scientific experience brings to light more and more determinations and fewer possibilities of freedom. The astonishing thing today is the disagreement between this finding and the philosophy of human freedom. Marxist philosophy has become less inflexible and more voluntaristic. Existentialism thinks that the human condition can be annulled, and it defines man as free. One might also refer to phenomenology or even the theology of Teilhard. There is not a single movement in modern philosophy which takes into account the findings of a more scientific study of man. We may quote in this connection the pertinent studies of Stephanie Lupasco. Lupasco speaks very generally of the serene, confused, and facile way in which the contemporary philosophy uses certain key terms to build up theories and doctrines without bothering about the modifications their ideas might have to undergo in the light of scientific investigation. Only in the latter decades of the 20th century has philosophy found the hope and will to work outside, if not contrary, to the work of science. Every philosophy and metaphysics prior to this century has always tried to build on what passed for scientific experience of age, i.e., on the exercise of mental functions as they grapple with the world and as knowledge is thus made possible. One is reminded of how J.P. Sartre told a physicist to be quiet when he was speaking about the composition of matter, since philosophers have a far better idea of what matter is than physicists do. Really interesting. The phenomenon of freedom characterizes this conflict. Philosophers deliberately ignore what sociology, political science, economics, and social psychology teach about man. A reading of the literature of philosophy conducts us into a world of imagination, inconsistency, and gratuitousness. Exactly. These philosophers are a bunch of blowhards. Amen? Amen. Everything is, of course, verbally possible, but we do not get beyond the verbal. Nor does the mere affirmation of the freedom of man in modern books of philosophy and ethics dispose us to set aside the evidence that socially he is not free, or to resist the continual nibbling away at this supposed freedom by the social sciences. In philosophy, we find an affirmation of faith, taking up a position, a choice, which enjoys a certain respectability as a decision. I am wagering that man is free. Nothing will convince me, however, that this is a correct choice. I will simply refer to the disparity between scientific findings and the philosophical affirmation and say that, for my part, I side with the former, even though I am aware that philosophers can argue that science itself is merely a systematic interpretation of the world and man, which is just as arbitrary as any other. So he's citing he is leaning towards the scientific findings as opposed to the philosophical affirmation because even though that philosophers can point out that science is merely a systematic interpretation of the world and man, which is just as arbitrary as any other. That's a good one. Uh, it's a pretty good quote. Mm-mm-mm. It's at page 36. Philosophers can argue that science itself is merely a systematic interpretation of the world and man, which is just as arbitrary as any other. Boom. Well put, Ilu. 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 I cannot I cannot accept this facile evasion. For when in the writings of the same, he thinks it's facile to point out that science is arbitrary. How's that facile? He's a man of science, I guess. But you wrote the Technological Society. Appearing neat and comprehensive only by ignoring the true complexities of the issue. Facile. Oh, that's a good word. Ignoring the true complexities of the issue. Facile. Facile. Is that how you pronounce it?
Facile.
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 Facile. You're being facile. I thought it's facile. Facile. I thought it was facile. You're being facile. You fucking facile. Facile. You fucking facile. Mm-mm-mm. I cannot accept this facile evasion, for when in the writings of the same philosophers I come across examples taken from spheres of science with which I am not entirely familiar, sections of history and sociology, I find such ignorance and glaring errors that it is difficult to treat seriously their evaluation of scientific matters. Oh, so he's saying that so he's an expert in like history and sociology, and when he comes across philosophers talking about history and sociology, that their ignorance is glaring. Yeah, that's true. One can hardly help concluding that this desire to reject the findings of science is due to the constricting, hampering, and limiting effect of science on thought, and also to the fact that the tremendous expansion of knowledge is destroying the possibility of constructing a single, all embracing system or interpretation. You got to read Van Til a little. Nevertheless, a deeper analysis is probably demanded. Why is it that why is it that at the very time when science is showing that man is determined by a multiplicity of mechanisms, philosophy is proclaiming freedom? Is there an element of compensation here, a kind of escape, an unconscious rejection? The prospect is too frightening. If science is right, we must avoid its iron yoke. The interesting thing is that modern philosophy inclines specifically to the absurd, to anguish and ambiguity. It would rather affirm an absurd and tragic existence than accede to a rational universe of determination. Absurdity, even if terrifying, is a consolation face to face with the rigor of necessity. Eroticism, political involvement, ambiguity, and nonsense can be accepted as a justification of presupposed freedom. Anything is better than the pure and simple evidence of determination. The more terrible this becomes, the more man has the sense of freedom. In this regard, we are on the plane of what Marx called ideology. Modern philosophers, in their refusal to face up to the realities of life, are undoubtedly a product of this erroneous feeling. They refuse to see themselves in their reality as men. This is why I shall ignore them here and simply consider the situation described by Marxism and sociology. He's just going to ignore the modern philosophers. For real, dude. For real. See, like, he's not a precept. So, like, I think I agree with what he's saying from his perspective. Like, philosophy, even from his non precept perspective, you can see that, like, human philosophy is stupid. Hmm. How much more do I got in this chapter? Okay, I'm almost done. Shit. No, I'm not almost done. Good lord. Wow. How long is this chapter? Okay, just chapter 2. So I'm like 14 pages away from chapter 2. Dear God, this book is so massive. It's gonna take forever. Uh, Maybe I'll take a break, I guess. Oh, I guess my TikTok career is over. No one wants to debate me anymore. Some special God's child. Yeah. Facile. 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 Science can make arguments. Science doesn't really make arguments. Science um, produces like data, and then the people argue about the data. Arguments are more like philosophy than science. Although science is actually a branch of philosophy too. Better preaching content may equal better viewership. Oh, I don't want to preach. I want to do debates. That's okay if I don't get a lot of viewers. I don't really care. Thanks, Ben. I guess I'm gonna end the live though, because I'm gonna tell you I don't want to read anymore, and no one is trying to debate. So I'll see you guys later.